Okay, because I forgot to record this morning's session, I'm going to do a quick run through of the first few steps that we went through, just so that anyone who missed it can absolutely be caught up on the same page. One thing a lot of people had trouble with in the Slack, we saw a common problem repeated again and again, was getting the lab data in the first place. So if you navigate to the page for our GIS Institute in a browser within your Windows, and you download the lab data, it will show up in your downloads as a zip. If you double click that zip, you should get a window like this that offers you the opportunity to extract it. But some people haven't been able to do that. So I'm going to give you another way. You can navigate to your downloads in your Windows Explorer. Go find that zip, and I'm ashamed to show you my downloads because I have so incredibly much stuff here, but it was this Harvard GIS Institute Intro to ArcGIS data. Right click and use 7-zip if you have it to extract files or extract here. If you don't have it, you can go back and get the copy of the data from the Winter Institute. That works fine. I guess that can be extracted with the default Windows zip unpacker. And then once you have extracted it, and we really can't start the lab until you have this, you should have a folder. Let me find that folder in this big mess. Called Harvard GIS Institute Intro to ArcGIS Data that does not have a zip on it. It's just a regular folder, and you can open it and see its subfolders. And actually, this might just be interesting. I don't think we did this in class, but if you open one of the subfolders, you'll see a whole bunch of similarly named files. When we look at this subfolder from within the software, these files with the similar names are all going to get collapsed into one thing. But I just thought it would be fun to see them here in the file browser. Okay, so once you are to the point where you have a real folder, we can open Arcmap and look at some of the data from inside the system. So here is my Arcmap. And just to give you a little familiarity with the window, when we have a map, it will appear in this big open area. And this panel on the left is called the table of contents. And it will hold a list of all the files that we have open in the map. So to add data to our map, we're going to use the Add Data button. Just click on it once. Now, I already have this stuff all attached. But chances are when you access this for the first time, it might look something like this. Arcmap has the quirk, it's kind of an old software. In order to look in a folder, you have to have connected that folder to the software. It's not quite the same thing as having like copied your data into, say, a designated data directory. You can keep your data anywhere, but then you sort of have to tell Arcmap how to get to the place that you stored your data. And that's this little button here, Connect to Folder, the little folder with a black plus on it. If you hit Connect to Folder, you can navigate through your directory structure and tell it what folder you'd like to look in. Generally, these are hosted under your username. And here's some familiar ones. You may have stored stuff on your desktop. You may have stored stuff in your documents. You may have put it in your downloads. Well, I put it in my downloads. Here, in fact, is the folder that I want. At this point, you have a choice. You could just connect your downloads, and then every time you go to load something, you can just work your way through the folders within it. Or we could connect this folder directly. I'm just going to connect my downloads. Now if I go into folder connections, and if you couldn't find it there, you can find it in this drop-down. I have a folder connection for my downloads. I can go to it, and here's that unzipped folder again. And here are China, India, and Ghana, just like we saw in the File Explorer. But if we open India, a lot of those sub-files have been collapsed into what's called a shapefile. A shapefile is actually a collection of 4 or 5, maybe even 6 or 7 smaller sub-files. We're just going to add India Map District to the map. Okay, so I highlight it and I click Add. You will get this error about an unknown spatial reference. Believe me, by the time this is over, we will have talked about spatial reference till you're blue in the face, but for now, we're just going to ignore this. And we get a lovely map of the districts of India. A few things to note. As I scroll my cursor around, you see decimal degrees in the lower right-hand corner changing. This indicates that the spatial reference behind this map, even if it isn't one that the software recognizes, is a geographic coordinate system. It's based on latitude and longitude. So right now my cursor is at 88, that would be east longitude, I believe, and 16.9 north, I'm guessing, latitude. Yeah, north. Good. A few more tools that we can get you used to. There is a zoom tool where you can zoom down and see a little portion. There is a pan tool, which is this little hand that lets you move the map around. There is a let's see the whole world tool, which right now only shows us the whole world as India because the map isn't any larger than that. If you got yourself lost, which is really easy to do, like I zoomed into some no man's land, you can always get back. You can use the back arrow to back through your views, or you can right-click on the layer and choose Zoom to Layer, and it will get you back to your layer. So that's quite helpful. Okay, there's India, and it's beautiful. Let's add something else. Let's go to Add Data, navigate up from the India folder, and let's just go get a copy of Ghana. When I open the Ghana folder, I would like number 37, Sub-Country Boundary 2, and add that. Now we don't see it. Why don't we see it? Because the map is focused on India, and it's a great big world, and Ghana is nowhere near India. If I click on the World button, I can see them in their respective locations on the surface of the Earth. And I can even get a little fancy. I don't think Scott did this in the lab, but I could add a base map like this light gray canvas. And then we could see our 2 data layers sort of in their context where they fall on their various continents. Now the only problem with adding a base map is it's really memory intensive. So as soon as I put this on and show you how nice it is, I'm going to remove it. I'll just wait for the layers to draw. Okay, so now here is the India data, the India layer on India on the base map. Here is the Ghana layer, and I could, zoom into an area. But again, it takes a while to draw with the base map. Therefore, I'm going to turn the base map off. And now here is the data for Ghana. I can use the pan tool to kind of center it in my view. And if I want to see both countries again, I can go to the full extent. And I think for the exercise we worked on India, so I am in fact going to zoom to layer and continue the exercise using the Indian shapefile. All right, right now these are polygons, and all of the polygons are colored the same color. There's no indication of any size, population, elevation. There's no numeric association with any of these polygons. But we do have a lot of choices. There are things that we could be showing. And so in order to find out what we could potentially color these districts by, we can look at the attribute table for this layer. The way you get the attribute table is by right-clicking. Everything is a right-click. Right-clicking in the table of contents, choose Open Attribute Table. Oh, and I can tell that my attribute table showed up way over here off the side of the screen. I don't know if I can get it back. There we go. So this is the attribute table associated with the India map district shapefile. If I make it a little bit bigger here, every row in this table corresponds to one of the districts here on the map. I think I can probably just click on one and highlight it, and you'll see that this information is for Kargil. This is its polygon, and across we have all these fields containing data about Kargil. Let's look at what a few of these fields are. There's the total area, total population, the male population and the female population. Now these are given in counts, so these two fields should add up to the total population field. They're not percents or anything. And let's see if we can identify some of these other fields. We're interested in literacy, so I see we have a column of total number of literate people, total number of men who are literate, and total number of women who are literate. And again, because these are numbers, not percents, these two should add up to approximately this one. Unless there are people who didn't answer the survey, perhaps. Okay, so just looking at all of these different field names, or you could think of them as variables, we have a lot of different ways we could potentially color the polygons on this map. I was kind of wrong to highlight this. Now that I've got it highlighted, I have to unhighlight it. And the way to unhighlight it is with this little white button here, Clear Selected Features. So that's getting ahead of ourselves. We'll learn that tomorrow. For now, I want to figure out how to change the colors in these polygons to represent some sort of value. I do that by right-clicking on the layer, going to Properties, and then going to Symbology. We got Scott talking here. I'm going to try and turn him off. Okay. We'll return to the group discussion in a few minutes, but just to get this finished, right now you see this beige here. It shows us that all the features are drawn using the same boring beige symbol. If you click on it, we could get fancy and change the color. Let's make them purple. If you click Apply, you can just get a little preview of what it would look like with them all purple. But that's really not our ultimate goal. We want to show some of these quantities. So we go to the quantities on the left, graduated colors, and then in this box we can choose which one of those many numeric fields we want to use to control the color of this map. For example, we could do, well, I know the goal was to do female literacy. So here's female literacy. There's a lot wrong with this. I'm going to apply it just so we get the thrill of seeing the colors on the map. So what do I mean there's a lot wrong with it? Well, ArcGIS comes with a sort of natural scheme. They want to set the division among these color categories. And they set it using a proprietary algorithm of their own called Natural Breaks Jenks. I don't think anyone else uses Natural Breaks Jenks. It's just a quirk of Esri software. We can change this, and we would like to change this. In order to change the classification scheme, which is, again, where these breakpoints are set between the colors, we're going to click on the Classify button. Here we see a histogram of all, this is all the values in the map, and the blue lines are where those breakpoints have been set. And you can see they don't really follow a particular scheme, they're sort of all over the place. If we changed them, say, to equal interval, they would divide up the available values into equal ranges of value. Actually, let's just look at that. Let's see what that would look like. So here's what equal interval would look like. Equal interval tends to make it look like nothing is happening. It's a very boring symbology, but a valid one. If we use the Classify button again, we could instead look at these using quantile classification. Now here you see that the breaks are not evenly spaced, but they are spaced in such a way that each bin between the breaks holds about the same number of polygons. And so if we look at that, quantile is kind of fun because it always makes it look like something is going on with your data. So what you're seeing here is in dark brown, you're seeing the top 20%, the top fifth of values for female literacy. These are the places where there are the most literate women. And then again, with the light yellow, we are seeing the place where there are the least literate women. Now that's a count. Sometimes counts don't show us very much because it's entirely possible that these are just the heavily populated places, the places where there are the most women. And these, for all I know, may be sparsely populated, which is why they have a low count. In order to handle that, the idea that the phenomenon you're seeing is really just population, we can use this normalization option. This basically just divides our variable here by another variable in the table. In this case, if we wanted to know like a rate, where are, of the women, where are the most literate, we could divide female literacy on each polygon by female population on each polygon. And that gives us something like a percent. So now when I hit apply, the distribution here of colors changes a lot. That coastal area that had been exceptionally high is no longer exceptionally high, and this northern area that was exceptionally low is no longer necessarily the lowest. Now we're not just seeing where are the people, we're seeing of the women, where are the largest percent of them literate. Once I've got this the way I like it, suppose this was, I was happy with this and this was my goal. You click OK. So apply is just to test it out, to see if you like it, to try things out. But then when you hit OK and the properties dialog goes away, you get to keep the symbology that you set up. Oh, I forgot something though. Let's go back into that properties symbology. Properties. It's a good review anyway. Symbology. When you do this normalization, female literacy divided by female population, you lose the classification scheme you chose. So we're back to natural breaks. So I have to reclassify it if I want to see this new percent on a quantile scheme. And I can either apply that or just say okay. And it is a bit different. Okay, now maybe there's a little more emphasis on that lowest quintile. One more thing before we end this video. If I go back to properties symbology, I forgot to mention that in this classify dialog, you don't just have to have 5 classes. If we wanted to know, it down to the 10th, we could have 10 classes here. But I will say 10 classes, it gets a little bit hard to parse the difference in some of these oranges in the middle. So we usually recommend maybe 3 to 7 class breaks. All right, as far as I can remember, this is approximately what Scott did this morning, so I'm going to end this video and rejoin the Zoom.